Hi, I am Dr. R. Sevukan, Faculty of Library and Information Science from Pondicherry University. We are here to discuss about how to catalog an edited book. There are so many documents that you see in the library as we have been seeing and using different types of sources in the library like books, periodicals, non-book materials and many more. So, within that if you look at the demand for academic community, these edited books are heavily demanded by the people. The reason is the edited books will have the collection of research papers from real experts who are specialized in their particular area. So, because of that once it is collected it becomes a document, but when you see the author for that particular book, that responsibility given to an author would be extremely difficult. For that one person or more than one expert may take the responsibility of collecting articles from different experts and compiling together, and that has to be published as a document. So, we can say it is a book, but there is a lot of difference between a book and the edited book. So, book will have only its own author, they will have their own responsibility for the content, thought content of the document. But here the authors who are contributing to this volume are many in number. So, every author will have the responsibility for each item which is contained in a book. So, at the whole process one person has to take the responsibility, he is called either compiler or the editor. So, he will do that, but here when it comes to cataloging technically in the libraries it becomes again a difficult task how to prepare a main entry, because so many authors are involved in that in contributing the thought content, and many more people, more than one is also involved in compiling all those this scholarly literature from various people. So, here it is difficult, and how to catalog that edited book we are going to learn that process. So, what are actually edited books? So, when many authors write short articles as I mentioned before, and someone takes the responsibility of collecting, editing and publishing those articles in a book form, giving a title for the book. And ASCR 2 revised edition calls this as a collective title. A collective title is the one in which 3 or more works or parts of the works by one author are published together, or it may be 2 or more works or part of the works by more than one author published together. So, it is very clear from this definition given by ASCR 2R is that many authors contribute to that, and there will be a person who will be facilitating all these articles to get them published in a book, and that but book will have a separate title. The title would be given by the person who is responsible for publishing it. So, there the title is given, and the title which is given may be by one author or group of authors, that is what it means. So, it is clearly indicating that the edited book means collection of articles from different experts on a particular subject, and one person will hold the responsibility of collecting it, processing it, then giving a new title to that, and it is a new title he will publish, but he cannot claim as he is an author. So, only he can be a compiler or the editor. This is what an edited book means. So, the cataloging rules for these edited volumes: for books published under the editors or compilers, the main entry heading will be the title, because the person who is compiling is not an author, and the authors who have contributed are many in number. It is a technical issue for the catalogers to catalog the document with one person or the other. So, that will create a lot of contradiction technically in the library. To avoid that, this ASCR has clearly given the suggestion that the entry has to be made under title, and added entry also should be made to the principal editor or the first named editor on the title page. Again it is very clear that only one editor will get a chance, whether it is 1 or 2 or more. In that case, only one editor, that is called principal editor, or the first named editor will get the chance of getting his name transcribed in the leading section of a main entry. So, coming to these areas of description for any kind of document that you have to catalog in the library, we have to confine to the 8 areas of main entry, because we are all cataloging the documents and we have been discussing about this based on AACR 2 revised edition. So, according to AACR 2R, there are 8 areas of main entry. One is title and statement of responsibility, edition statement, material or type of publication specific details, publication, distribution, etc., physical description, series, note, standard number and terms of availability. These 8 are the main areas which are to be considered or which are to be kept in mind while preparing a catalog card. See, it is not necessary that we have to have all 8 fields in one main entry. Some entries may be missing. Simply for example, title and statement of responsibility, every document will have that title, it is mandatory, and author name also would be there. It may be an individual or an institution or group of people or group of institutions as corporate bodies. When it comes to edition, it is not necessary that every book will have its edition. So, first it always will have a new book, it will be published as a fresh edition. When it is updated based on the changes that are taking place, with the book has to be modified. The modified content has to be again published. When it is published with updated content, then that has to be named as edited book. It may be second edition or third edition and so on. So, that has to be clearly given, but in the case of a new publication, this area may not be available. Similarly, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have different varieties of material in the library. Those materials, for all the materials we cannot uniformly prepare the catalogs. Those the entries will definitely vary or differ from one to another. There we have to specify about the type of material. It may be a CD-ROM, or it may be an e-book, or it may be an e-journal, or it may be a monograph, or it may be map or atlas. So many varieties of documents we have. For each one we have to prepare, we have to treat them independently. And the publication distribution details, for every publication we will have physical description that relates to the physical contents of the document, how many pages it has, what is the size of the document, whether it contains any illustration or whether it contains any accompanying material. All those things have to be recorded under physical description. And a series, when they have some series on a particular subject by the publishers, they may mention this is a series of mathematics, they may give number, and for that particular series who is responsible, he may be the author or the editor of that series. Then note also has to begin if there is any important thing which cannot be mentioned either in the title page or the verso of the title page, that can be given as a note. And every document is supposed to have the standard number. If it is a book, it will have the number international standard book number. In case of periodicals, it will have ISSN, international standard serial number. Under terms of availability, these 8 are the major areas which are to be considered while cataloging the documents. So, based on those 8 areas, this is the skeleton card which contains all these particulars. As I mentioned before, it is not mandatory that one book or the document should have all these bibliographic fields. That is why AACR has clearly given 3 different levels: first level, second level and third level. So, this is according to the second level. So, there we have to write the call number at the left side above the horizontal line, and access number at the 5th line to make it uniform. There is no hard and fast rule, as I mentioned before, and the name of the author would be in the leading section, then title and statement of responsibility. Statement of responsibility is nothing but the name of the author or the authors, then collaborators in the form of editor, illustrator and all, and edition statement if any, publication details like place, name of the publisher, year of publication, then physical description area where you will have to record the number of pages which consist of preliminary and textual pages, size of the book in centimeter, series, editor of the series, standard numbers and number of the series, and at the end we have to even write about the tracing section also, which will be considered as added entries. And also one thing we have to remember that there are two types of entries that we have to prepare. One is main entry, and based on the main entry and we have to prepare added entries also. So, now we have to come to an example of this edited volume. As I said before, it is extremely difficult to identify who is the principal, who is having the principal responsibility as an author, that the identifying such information would be very difficult. So, under this case we said that ASCR suggests that we have to prepare main entry under title. So, here you can see artificial intelligence is the one title, then the they have given the case against and edited by one author, and they have given publication details. So, in the other information as usual they have given call number, accession number, date of publication, pages, size, ISBN. But when you look at here, all the information is completely scattered, but the scattered information have to be compiled in a proper way systematically using that 8 areas what we have mentioned. So, according to those 8 areas we have to put everything, we have to group everything together at one place, and accordingly we have to transcribe in the main entry. Now, let us see how the main entry has been prepared. So, in the case of edited volume, always the leading section or the heading would be title. So, here as I said before, we have to write the call number is the combination of two, one is class number, the other one is book number. Then title is in this particular example illustration artificial intelligence, then it has got subtitle also. When you have the subtitle, you have to separate it by colon, the case against, then edited by, instead of author name when we mention the case of books, here it is different, edited by whom. So, author has been given, then it has to be separated by the punctuation called dot, space, dash, space, then place of publication, colon, name of the publisher, comma, year of publication, and also physical description, how many preliminary pages and how many textual pages and what is the size of the document. This has to be also recorded like small Roman letters, it is 35 comma 220 p dot semicolon 23 centimeter cm. So, this book has got ISBN, International Standard Book Number, it has to be recorded as it is, as you find in the verso of the title page. And similarly for tracing section also we have to do. Here in this case as I said before, since we are preparing main entry with the heading under title will not come again, only for the subject heading we have to extract based on Sears list of subject headings. So, the subject heading derived from Sears list is artificial intelligence, and that has to be in the numeric order 1, 2, 3 and so on. It depends upon the number of subject headings that you extract from Sears list of subject headings. In this case there is only one, artificial intelligence, and the second one is only the here there is only one editor. For editor we have to prepare an added entry. So, this is these two are the entries which we find under tracing section. For these two we have to prepare added entries, and as I mentioned before, access number, there is no hard and fast rule that this has to be written only in a particular place. To make it uniform, we follow that number has to be written in the 5th line of the catalog card of left side, just below the call number. So, coming to the added entry for subject, subject headings have also always to be in capital letters, and main entry can be as it is, and only the subject heading has to be written on the top, and so from the second vertical line we have to start above the leading section. So, here you can notice that accession number is missing. So, it is not necessary that we have to write accession number in the added entries also, that is not required, and also you do not have to repeat the entries what you have made in the main entry again in the added entries also. Simply you can close it by mentioning within circular bracket rest as in the main entry. So, this is more than enough, and this is complete in the case of added entry for the subject. So, coming to this editor, as I said before, we have to prepare an added entry for the editor also, and also we have seen in the main entry there were only 2 entries under tracing section. For both the entries we have to prepare. So, here what we do, we just write like main entry on the top above the leading section from the second vertical line we write the editor's name, but here we have to give the title, what kind of contribution he has done, whether he is an editor or compiler or reviser. That has to be clearly specified. For that, again it should be in the abbreviated form. You can see in the first line author name Born Raiser, comma ed underlined, then dot. This is the way how we have to write the editor's name along with the designation what he has as far as the book is concerned. So, this is how we have to catalog in the case of single editor of an edited volume. So, coming to the second example, it is more than one editor. You can simply look at the title what has been given and edited by 3 different persons. We cannot say authors, 3 different editors, and publication detail also has been given, and other information, it is call number, accession number, date of publication, pages, size and ISBN. This usual information what you find, but again as I said before, all the information bibliographical details have been completely scattered. Scattered means this is while it is printed in the printed book and the published book you will find details only like this, but it would be printed at 2-3 places like cover page, title page, and even verso of the title page. From there we have to cull out the information and then finally we have to catalog. So, now let us learn how to catalog a document, particularly an edited volume with more than one editor. So, this main entry we have to make with the title, you are all familiar now. In the case of edited volume or edited book, we have to always start the entry element in the leading section. Heading should be with the title. So, call number as usual we have written, then we start with the title, then hanging indentation is followed here. Always this you have to remember, I reiterate again and again that when you are entering the heading as a title, always the hanging indentation has to be followed. Hanging indentation means you have to start the remaining lines except the first line has to be from second vertical line. So, that is how we have to start. So, here you can see like we were doing for authors, more than 3 authors, there we will see simply write by what, but here the title is given as editor. So, title divide this using diagonal slash edited by 3 editors we have clearly given. So, then place of publication, name of the publisher and year of publication based on the punctuations which have been given in the skeleton card, you have to carefully follow that. So, this is very important. And coming to this physical description area, this preliminary pages, textual pages, then size of the document, it has been separated by comma to mention about the preliminary pages, then textual pages, dot, p dot, semicolon and 24 centimeter is the size. Then in the 5th line access number has been transcribed, Then ISBN as recorded in the book, it has been given, it has been written as it is. And then as if the card is not sufficient, one card is not sufficient to transcribe all the bibliographic details at one card, we can use another card. While using the another card, we have to use the phrase continued on next card, that has to be the last line in the first card. When you start in the second card, you have to start with continued 1. So, this is the basic thing, still it is very important that will give link to the next card. So, when it is going beyond one card, we can even use the second card, provided you have to use continued in card number 2. So, continued 2. So, like that. So, here tracing section you can see learning comma psychology of. So, this is the subject heading that has been derived from Sears list of subject headings, and Roman letter 1 is the first editor, now 2 second editor, and Roman letter 3 is the third editor. So, for all the editors we have to prepare an entry, added entry. So, here let us see how the added entry has been prepared for the subject heading. So, here it is only one learning comma psychology of, this is what we have got from Sears list, and that has to be written in capital letters. So, rest will be the same as in the main entry, excluding the access number. Access number will not be there in the added entries. Similarly, for first editor, we have to specify in the previous title also we had seen, we have to specifically mention the role of the person, whether he is an editor or compiler, that has to be given. This author name is given and followed by comma, ed, underlined and dot. So, this production system models is the title, then we can simply close the entry by mentioning that rest as in the main entry in the circular bracket. Then coming to the second editor, same as we have done for the first editor, the only editor name changes, second editor name will come here, role is same, and the rest also is same as you have seen in the added entry for the first editor. Similarly, for the third editor also we can see the name of the third editor followed by the role given to him as editor, and the rest follows the same the fields what we have mentioned in the main entry and in the previous two added entries. So, this is what it was when I introduced the topic, it was really appealing that it may be very difficult for us to understand how to catalog this document, but by seeing the technical requirements which were seen in ASR 2 and as ASR 2 suggested, it has become very simple for us to catalog a document called edited book, compiled edited by one editor and more than one. Then when it crosses more than 3, what has to be done. So, it was quite interesting to learn that how we have to catalog a document with the people who are collecting information or the research papers or the articles from different people who are real experts in the field, and how it has to be compiled. After compiling, what has to be the appropriate title, then title is also identified by the person who is compiling it. So, the person who is taking care of all this responsibility is called an editor or the compiler. So, for that for editor we cannot give credit as an author, only the compiler. So, here we give the this collective title based on the papers what we have received from various sources. So, seeing all those papers, we have to appropriately name a title. The title would be given by the editor. So, that a title is given title of the edited book is given credit. So, based on that we have to prepare main entry, and in the case of number of editors, if it is 1, it is same as we do with a single authored simple book, and when it crosses more than 1, then we have to have 2 editors. When it is 3, then again we have to mention. So, here for the editors, for each editor we have to prepare added entries. So, this is what all about the contents are the procedures to be followed for preparing catalog entries as a process for the edited book by a single editor and more than one. So, with this we can conclude this, and we can continue in the next session and how to catalog the documents, particularly the proceedings of conferences, seminars and symposia.